it just so happens to be that when you get through that stuff, HubSpot is probably the best platform that you could build, grow, and scale a business on, period. So that's the other level that we're trying to accomplish. Let's get experts together and just start doing valuable things.
On today's episode of the Build Happily podcast, we have Chris Carolan of Profoundly. This is the Build Happily podcast, where we dive into building apps, companies, and relationships in the HubSpot ecosystem.
As HubSpot grows, so does the opportunity, and we put you in the room with the people making it all happen. Chris, what did Dax tell you about this show, buddy?
Nothing.
Listen, this show is called the Built Happily podcast. When we first started it, the idea is we were going to talk to other app solutions partners or app partners that have built apps on HubSpot. And we were going to talk about how you built them, right? It's like how you built it for the HubSpot app marketplace. But we quickly realized there are people who have built more than just an app on the HubSpot app marketplace. And there's a lot of really interesting, fun stories and lessons to be learned from a lot of these different experiences that people have had building anything in the HubSpot world, right? And you, sir, have built quite the presence on the HubSpot ecosystem zeitgeist. And you built this not only wonderful content presence and machine that you've built with the Let's Build X, that you've deployed in a number of very amazing ways. But now there's also this Profoundly thing, which I don't know the story behind, but I believe you were intimately involved in it seems, right?
Founding pro.
Founding pro, exactly. Obviously, we know you very well, but Chris, for anyone watching or listening at home that doesn't know who you are, tell us who you are, what you do, who you do it for, how you do it, all those fun things.
Oh, well, thank you for those kind words. And I'm excited to kind of share what I feel like has been a little bit of an epiphany over the past couple of years about how easy it is really to make a name for yourself in a space where you didn't have one before. But I'm a man of context. I love context. I think it's so important to every conversation. So I like to start from a bench chemist in 2007, coming down to Houston from Michigan after having a biology degree with a chemistry minor is where I started.
I didn't know that about you.
And I sat down at the bench after having worked years at a movie theater and at Kohl's and retail. And it's just me, a couple bottles of oil. I'm supposed to mix them together and no customers anywhere. And I was like, no people. I can just listen to, man, if I had started listening to podcasts back then, I would be a different level. But I was spending time on Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and Dark Tower series. So, but moved up through the ranks of like production, quality control, research and development. So the operations side of things, but we sold a unique product that meant if somebody asks, can it do the thing? I've got to answer that question. If somebody asks how much that costs, I got to answer that question. Something goes wrong with the product, I've got to answer that question. So at some point when I moved into like lab director role, I had to get intimately familiar with all of our products, all of our customers, all the supply chain, all the ins and outs, how much they didn't know about the thing that we sold and the products they were supposed to use them with, AKA HubSpot, the platform, and the apps that people try to plug in. And got the opportunity to say, hey, we could either bring in a new sales leader and teach them all about our products and services and customers, or we could bring in a lab manager and Chris could jump over because he already knows all those things. That was in 2013. Fast forward 2017, I'm at HubSpot after our first down year ever. And I got approval for marketing automation and actually chose Marketo first because I was in the Salesforce ecosystem. Didn't even know about HubSpot. It was between Marketo and Pardot. And it made sense to me. Oh, Marketo is built on Salesforce and Pardot's just bolted on. Yeah, easy choice. And then The first 30 days did not go well with Marketo. I couldn't even give me admin access. So day 27, I hit the HubSpot pricing page after having gone to the academy. That was my first, okay, I guess I got this 10K like approval. I guess I better learn what marketing automation is. Find the HubSpot Academy. Day 27, hit the pricing page. Within 7 minutes, I get a call from the salesperson and I get out of my Marketo contract. So implement HubSpot always from a full platform perspective. 4 times manufacturing space from 2017 to 2023, from 2 million to 500 million global, and then jumped into the solutions partner program in August of 23. And yeah, I love helping people, thinking of it from this customer like full bodied, like not just lead gen, not just CRM, but how do we help the whole business build and grow on this full platform, right? So that's my very contextual backstory that I hope you appreciated.
Appreciate more than you know, man. You came into the solutions partner when I met you as a solo, run your own thing. Didn't seem like it was solo, but it was solo. And the chemist game is a lot of sitting in the lab by yourself, solo, mixing things with schematics.
Oils.
One of the things that we always look at and talk about with the HubSpot ecosystem is that, like you said, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's straightforward, right? To make a name for yourself. What was it like when you joined in the solutions partner, and how did you try to differentiate yourself?
Well, one of the things that was always interesting for me and frustrating when I was on the inside of companies, especially 2017, I meet HubSpot, They Ask You Answer. I started listening to the Hubcast with Marcus Sheridan and George, Story Brand. All this stuff starts making so much sense to me as far as doing customer-centric stuff. And I'm seeing all these consultants and agencies, they're all sharing this message and none of it's getting through. And I couldn't understand why, right? Until I came on this side. And then I see every manufacturing page that is on a partner website. It's like they just copied the SaaS page and replaced the word SaaS. And so immediately, and thanks to Ryan Gunn for being somebody who took a call early on as I was trying to understand. I was like, is anybody like doing manufacturing? And he shared how he was approaching like the different audiences that Up2Date had and like what their approach was. So immediately I understood, okay, there's a spot for people with manufacturing knowledge to have a space here. One thing, when Salim and I started the agent, we knew the problem was not necessarily solvable either, right? Like manufacturing, they're often laggards. Their pipeline doesn't work. Like we couldn't have a pipeline that's like, all right, 2 months and done, like no matter what. So a lot of these conversations I started having with HubSpot and our strategy and with other partners, it just wasn't adding up. So it told me right away, there's a space to start speaking the language of manufacturing and this kind of non-SaaS approach to building out these systems in support of people like 25-year sales vets who've been crushing it and never picked up a tool in their life. I just can't put HubSpot in front of them. And I learned all these like the hard way inside and expect them just to get on board. So that was the understanding early on. And we took a traditional approach to trying to capitalize on that and created some podcasts, created Industrial Tech Stack Live, where it's like the weekly Zoom call. And there's just a big lift though to do it in that way. And it wasn't scalable. And we had to make choices of content versus revenue. And fortunately then, I was getting all the advice in the world to build the prospecting list and blah, blah, blah. And it's just not me, right? I'm just never going to do that, which as a sales leader, you can imagine it's not necessarily great for the bottom line at that point, but it wasn't hard to see where the gap was, right? Then it just became, okay, how to capitalize on it effectively.
So take me to where the idea actually pause this. Let's frame it up first. Tell us about Let's Build, right? And what that is. And then I want you to take it back to the moment where the idea popped into your head, or like maybe it was one specific moment in time or a series of events that led to it, right? Talk about what that is and then how it came to be.
Yep. So when I am in the position to move through a sales process and I start to feel the challenges of the status quo, and I remember things like 50% CRM adoption rates and 70% digital transformation failure. And then when I'm trying to close deals, that stuff, like the things that cause that, get in the way of me closing deals. I'm not going to put myself through that a lot. And I will say, all right, let's try and solve for the source of the problem, no matter how big it is, no matter how big that mountain is. So initially, Let's Build is about, there's a bunch of people, because of how fast HubSpot has moved primarily from marketing automation platform to full platform. A bunch of people almost everybody lacks complete knowledge of the platform. And at the same time, we've got Kyle Jepson, doing his best to show up every day, like only he can. But Kyle Jepson, one guy, one video per day, 365 videos max, not including holidays and weekends, and 800 updates a year. All right, that doesn't add up. So where are all the people? Where are the rest of the Kyle Jepsons? And like, how can we possibly keep up if we don't get like 10 more Kyle Jepsons from inside HubSpot, 100 more from outside of HubSpot? That is why I started Let's Build, that mentality of, hey, if we need more people educating on HubSpot from like a news sharing perspective and not necessarily tutorials and how-tos, because one thing, I could never push the button on like recording something, knowing that next week they could change the view and like maybe it's out of date and do I have to redo it? So understanding from the tutorials of the world and people making courses, like how challenging that must be. So there was an inherent disconnect. And then in March of last year, I was like, okay, I keep telling everybody to be active on LinkedIn. I keep telling everybody to stop sleeping on LinkedIn Live, yet I'm not doing it. So Salim, can you just help me figure out StreamYard? And I'm going to just start going live. And it started as, let me get 15 minutes. I would just do 15 minutes every day. We're going to just go into HubSpot. And the first episode was sync properties. That might be the only time I was less than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think. But the immediate hit was like going in, clicking around, discovering HubSpot. And I got permission to do that by being a part of the admin hub in January preceding that, when we showed up and started talking about B2B order portals, customer order deliverables inside of HubSpot, trying to create the Amazon experience. But the admin hub as a whole, like when product managers are getting surprised by their own product, and Kyle's freewheeling, just clicking around, hey, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It's like that kind of content. That's real life HubSpot to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it also exposes people to a value of HubSpot that's very hard to explain unless you experience it yourself. Like inside the ecosystem, we very much take for granted how easy it is to add another option to a property. When in other systems, when you try to do that, you might bring the whole damn thing down, right? And that ability to click around and find out, basically, is what separates HubSpot from everybody else, like in my opinion. So being able to do that on the show, and also like giving the natural excitement about when you do find something, oh man, API details for association labels are right here. That's awesome. I can't wait to tell everybody, right? There's only one way to do that content, and it's to show up and just get in there and not know exactly what you're going to experience. So yeah, that's how it started and what it means. And then I'll share in July is when I'm like one person. Okay. I'm only one of the 100 that I've described. So how do we get other people doing this? I got a group together in Sprocketeer, individual consultants, as I was figuring out my place. I said, hey, if you just had to show up once a week, start talking about whatever your topic was, like you got to be passionate about it. Probably has to do with HubSpot, but not required. And 5 people raise their hand. And now all of a sudden we've got Monday through Friday schedule. And that's how it started. And that's been so much of this ends up being like, how can I enable others? There's so much expertise out there. There's so many people doing random stuff, but they're creating. And when we have 10 to 20 people just copy and pasting product updates,
oh God, it's the worst.
It's not super valuable.
What's it do?
Who gets it? Why?
Right.
Why does it exist? And the worst is when they just run it through one single layer of AI and it just adds emojis and stuff to it. It's the same damn thing. I cringe so hard. Dude, Chris, do you have any crazy stats on, is there like a, I don't know, like a streak of how many days you went live or any, like how much were you keeping track of this? Because it felt like you were live every single day.
I was.
For a long,
it feels like Saturday.
Yeah. Are you still Monday to Friday live every single day?
Well, yeah, now, because I've always found a way to be daily.
Yeah.
And now it's the Wake Up with Customer platform with George and Casey.
Yep.
That's where it's pretty hard to not, it's hard to talk about it. I do care about what other people think and I want to enable other people. But in order to get it off the ground, it had to be me. Like I had to show up and do it. And then everybody sees my face and it becomes hard to detach what's going on. But I had to take a break from Wake Up with Customer platform just because it's like, all right, this is a lot. Profoundly's launching. And then, but then I could show a couple episodes to somebody like Casey, right? And she's okay, I can do that every day.
Yeah.
And then do it a few times. Then George, of course, George, you want to join? Yeah. I would have asked you if I hadn't already asked you to do 10 other things.
Yeah.
Right. Together. But yeah, it was over 400 shows in a calendar from like March 18th to like January, February. I forget when I calculated it.
Yeah.
But it was over 400.
It was business days. So there were days where you were pulling double, triple duty.
Man, I swear I see you on
shows,
Saturday
right?
morning.
Oh yeah.
I see
I think 5 or
Saturdays.
6.
So,
I've done some Saturdays. Nico and I have done quite a few Sundays with Singularity Soothsayers. And that's where like you just find it attracts this similar group where I love the way George puts it. Like we're here to play and it happens to be work.
Yeah.
Not the other way around. And when you can make that distinction, you find other passionate people that want to help. We'll show up when we need to. If we couldn't make time for it during the day or during the week, let's create a space like to show up on the weekend. But yeah, I think 6 maybe was the most like in one day. But at the end of Q4, I had 12 weekly shows. So not including one-offs and unboxings. 12 weekly shows, including 2 dailies, one for AI and one for Customer platform. And so the way I look at it, and I learned this back in 2020, like when I joined my first like corporate company, like they ask you answer and that mindset and creating content from subject matter expertise. I thought that subject matter expertise was going to be the limiting factor. It's never been.
Yeah.
Like there's always experts around that know their stuff. The hard part is operationalizing it and getting them on a video, getting them to share, right? So if we do the math about like experts available, like my vision is a 40-hour like news network schedule. And if
it sounds like you have a TV show, you have a network, you have the Comedy Central with all your programming, and it's what you have. It's not even
got Hub NN, dude.
Yeah, I'll stop.
What
it's gonna be. You already have that. If I was thinking when you're speaking, I'm thinking of, I don't know if you guys had cable growing up, and that blue channel that has all the different shows and when they're coming on. Like you're just like, yeah, I have all of the AI, the customer platform, Like you have that. And that's the power of the internet and the power of attention, the power of social media. LinkedIn is free for now ish.
Yeah.
And you have if you're willing to do it and put it in, it's what you've done an amazing job at is less operationalizing and more like just figure it out later.
Yeah.
Because that's
and the power of what's been
figuring out like, I gotta write this down, I gotta get a show brief, I gotta brief, I gotta send in a brief, they gotta agree with a brief, just turn the camera on.
Yeah. And that's been everybody takes at least one go before they believe. Like even George, I remember we approached our first customer platform hug in that way. Cause I just don't I try to lean into my strengths and not into my weaknesses. I don't like to prepare. I don't like to be like, I think scripting does a lot to reduce the impact of content and the messaging. Nowadays, as everything moves so fast, if you script and it changes like the hour before you go live or somebody's not there, like we're just always in this position to be agile. So why put yourself in a position to not be, right? And we had the best conversation on this customer platform hug. Tony Dowling like started going down like capitalism, the meaning of capitalism route, like on this call. And George after was like, wow, that was some pretty good content. I wasn't sure. I'm like, yeah, dude. And that's where there's been moments like that where George was like the GOAT, like doing this since like 2013. If I can give him insight into how it could be done differently, how you can show up differently, then that tells me there's something there in terms of it's not just me. It's not just doing it the way I want to do it because I want to do it that way. It's no, this is something that maybe hasn't been done this way before. And maybe there's an audience that we haven't reached because we haven't done it that way. And that approach is an online. It's not for everybody. I'll say that. Not everybody wants to go live. But I can tell you what, it's a great vetting mechanism for HubSpot expertise. If somebody is willing to show up live about any topic and have a decent conversation about HubSpot, like it shows you're willing to put yourself out there, and you have to navigate these conversations that are unplanned. And it uncovers a lot of perspectives that are usually hidden in one-to-one sales calls or delivery discovery calls, where how do we unlock that? Because that's what's missing outside, right? So yeah, that's the continued story.
What are your like future plans for this? What do you got? And obviously the stuff you can't say, that's fine. But
when
do
is
you
this
have
gonna
some
air?
stuff? Listen, I'm not going to make you say everything. But is there some stuff you're cooking up for the future that like you're super stoked on right now that you can leak?
When is this going to air?
Oh, it's a good question for Ms.
Just talk about like scripting and it's going to air. So throw it out there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So it's a big part of what we think will differentiate Profoundly at the end of the day. So Profoundly Media Network type deal where, and what's fun about talking about this stuff is like without the network piece first, without the people showing up, it's so hard to replicate this. This is the moat, especially moving into AI, in my opinion. The expert relationships in that community, they're just a powerful thing that does not get recreated like overnight. It's very hard to pay for it. So, but that perspective of creating a place for experts to share their expertise, get paid for it in some way, whether through sponsorships or just greater exposure because they're creating valuable content. So many people have said, oh, I have a Google Drive worth of like half-baked guides and all this stuff that if there was somewhere better than LinkedIn to share it, I would do it already. Well, we want to be that place where you do it and it gets shared and people get value and it comes back to you in some way. Also, like from a curation perspective, like this problem of I'm overwhelmed with content. but also there's huge gaps in the content available, like around Content Hub and Service Hub and Operations Hub and Commerce Hub.
The first one made me giggle ridiculously.
Like, how do we make content about that stuff into the face of everybody's overwhelmed by content, right? So one is creating into those spaces, but also curating and creating the space to go that you're going to get valuable content and starting to create pillars around these hubs, around what's happening. I expect, and I've already gotten feedback, like this helps internal HubSpot stakeholders too, right? Because there's no way they can keep up in a lot of ways. Also highlighting where content is already being generated that's super valuable. So curation, can there be like an umbrella where like it's like Netflix makes their own content, but they also have a bunch of other studios that make content for them, right? Can we just create that space? And that's how we get to 40 hours, right? At the end of last year, the way the math works in my head is I had 12 people, 12 experts is what it took to have 12 recurring shows per week. I'm only 28 away from 40 hours.
Yeah.
We got 80-ish certified pros right now in the Profoundly platform. 12 would have been way more if I could have cloned myself. There were people ready to participate. It's just I couldn't figure out, and I didn't have the resources like to figure out how to detach myself as a host. I actually tried it at some point, and even Claude was like, "No, what are you doing? You're half the show here. You can't just." Not everybody's just has learned from 200 days of doing shows how to host and how to have an agile conversation about HubSpot. So I couldn't just like, all right, hand it off. You guys can do the show now. So I think that's what I want the future to be. And we are definitely on a path towards that, if we haven't launched already by the time you guys are hearing this.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Profoundly in there without telling the story of
I need to know
Profoundly.
with
Yes.
Burning RV and these games, these Slack community, it's all popped off nowhere. They've done a great networking effect and built something around that network to solve a problem. One of the things that you said on our side conversation with me was problem that couldn't be solved. So tell us about
and it's still in the process. We are hopeful to solve it.
Sure.
We are well on our way. And this is where like we do have every type of stakeholder in the ecosystem. So partners, like solutions partners, app partners, HubSpotters, different departments inside of HubSpot. Everybody knows at least that Profoundly exists and where our value wants to be. And for me, the mission is very simple. It's help people that need help with HubSpot find the help that they need, right? And that can be an individual, can be a team of people, it can be content, probably going to be AI by the end of the year, right? But understanding that it cannot be transactional because nobody knows what the hell HubSpot means. Like we talk about job titles and roles and all this stuff, like HubSpot is the ambiguous word that causes all the confusion. So how do we create like this kind of concierge experience where it's a 15-minute call that you might say you need data cleanup, and very quickly that explodes into an ERP integration conversation, right? And trying to handle that perspective of we've got all these people of different types. So like from hands to keyboard people that can help with HubSpot, all the way to trainers and mentors, versus the HubSpot admin that just needs a quick custom photo workflow, all the way to business leaders that need to know what the hell they're supposed to be doing with their HubSpot. And that's where it first came from. When I was trying to figure out my place in the ecosystem as an individual who very much wants to help people with HubSpot, but doesn't want to sell a bunch of HubSpot and doesn't want to build
Run a whole
stuff
agency.
right? Doesn't want to build stuff for everybody. I want you to you own your HubSpot, you manage your HubSpots, if you've invested in HubSpot, that's one of the biggest value adds, is that you don't need an admin team of people to manage and maintain your HubSpot. But nobody in the partner ecosystem, the way the partner program is built, is incentivized to help those people. So that's where it started. So my first thoughts were like, hey, what if there was like a HubSpot coach partner type that could just, the strategic success layer that doesn't exist, you could add it in without displacing anybody else in the ecosystem. Because everybody else, and I understand it's just how business works, is that incentivized to hit KPIs, to sell product, to build product. That's just the way it works. So that's strategically, that's where it's coming from. And as Let's Build, I turned into Let's Build Media, and I started getting more and more experts on board in a very, don't have to go through this vetting process way, that they can show up and add value. And they will tell you when they can't too, which is just important, because none of them are incentivized to try and force it in a way that gets points, for example. So that's where it started. We launched to a small group of pros in December of last year and launched to the world on January 23rd. And it's pretty undeniable, in my opinion, that part of what we're able to accomplish and why we are able to tackle this challenge is the scale of the solution. There's been a lot of directories in the past outside of solutions partner marketplace. There's been Upworks, there's been Fivers.
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't they solved? For me, it's a combination of that expertise, like expressed through content, plus the networks that people like Brian Garvey and Jason Azikar show up with, where it took me a minute to understand how powerful Jason's like network is. Like in the game since 2012, 23,000 followers that are probably like 100% HubSpot. And it's powerful. So that scale to just jump right to platform. Yes, we have a marketplace, but we also have community. We've got some media ideas, some education, campus style ideas. Being able to jump right to platform is a challenge for sure, but we have the pieces in place, and you wouldn't be able to solve it with just the marketplace itself. And you're just unlikely to be able to progress past this problem of, hey, I have this HubSpot problem. Here's how I want the help with it. And then getting proposals back and being like, oh, that's not the problem at all. That's what we hear about in the partner space all the time. And that's, if we were just to do more of that, then it would just be another job board, basically.
When we have a lot of these conversations about things that people built, whenever there's a really good name of the thing, I always try to get people to relive that moment. Profoundly. This is an 11 out of 10 name for exactly what you did.
Man, hold on. When you said it like that, I was like, oh.
Wait, you didn't get it?
Exactly.
You didn't get where you can find pros? Brother,
No,
hey,
you have to digest it. And I was
at this moment where I just understood what happily meant. The whole reason, hey, Dax, the whole reason we're on this call is because when happily came out, I saw what it was and I said, oh, I get it. And I texted Connor, and now we're here doing a podcast with Chris. That's exactly how this happened, by the way. Profoundly.
Archie is good. Damn it.
Who gets credit? First of all, who gets credit for the name? It's either you or it's Brian, or maybe it's some other figure behind the scenes. Or maybe you guys did it together. I don't know what it was. But talk about the moment that you thought of that name, or that it was thought of, or whatever. Because, man, amazing name. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you. It is pretty amazing. And it's amazing from a marketing standpoint to be able to use that word in all of the ways. Oh, it's either, I think it was a combination of Jason and Brian. It definitely was not me.
All right.
I was not in. I was like, I don't know. Because from a product and business naming perspective, my usual suggestion is let's be as literal as possible so that people don't have to figure out you know, what we are and what we're selling and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But as more of these nuances started to pop up, and there's always the examples of there are companies who've been awesome that, like HubSpot, what does that mean? That didn't mean anything. Like before they showed up, there's lots of examples where that can be successful. So it took me a minute to get on board. But once I was, and that's where Jason drafted up this logo. Once I saw the logo, I was like, okay, all in. Like, I've never felt so right, like in my life.
Is that the astronaut with the trophy? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks
Like
like
it
an
does-
astronaut drinking Kool-Aid. I was like, I get to drink in this.
Drinking
Could
out of the
be.
cup. Dude.
It probably will be someday. So many different things.
Did the logo come before the name?
No.
Okay. They had known the name. We're gonna have to, Dax. Now we're gonna have to get Jason and Brian on here to talk about that, because I need to know that moment that they were like, oh, whoa, thought of it for the first time, because it's absolutely
I'll
amazing.
interject. You talk again to bring back this whole network and like the people and drawing from people's experiences. And Jason, HubSpot is the perfect place for this. Like, it couldn't be like the most serendipitous ecosystem for something like this to happen. Not because it's small, because it is, but because of the ambiguity of like everything. Everything's changing. Everyone's in this, dropped on this planet, and everybody's trying to figure this out at the same time. Oh my God, it's like now there's a new season. Everybody, there's this whole season thing going on. Like, it's snowing. Cool. We should do like something about it. Oh my God, the season came again at the same time. Everyone's figuring out humanity and like how the ecosystem and how the universe works all at the same time. But it's this subset of people. It's like Jason. I have experience with Jason with Alchemist. Me and Tyrone were trying to build the HR platform, which was the beginnings of his like thing that went off, popped off crazy without us. But conceptually, we're all like we're all in the same humanity, the same universe. When it was the big poof, like HubSpot's not just the marketing hub thing. Poof, big planets, ecosystems, plans or hubs, all this stuff just happened. Everyone's trying to figure out, looking at the stars. So to come in as the guidance, and you're basically making like the parliament of sorts of, okay, who needs a Miller? I got one. Who needs a ERP like builder or integrations person? I got one. And you're starting to spread the teams out like the original union of this universe. I can just see, and then the astronaut like puts that masterpiece together for me. But it is still early, but this is the place it had to happen. Like, how did, out of all the planets and all the things that could have possibly happened, like something hit, started life. This is, I think that to me is my crazy brain picture.
Yeah, that's the part like I left out. Like, the way that we're approaching this can definitely only work. Like, I've never experienced another ecosystem where this could work, because a lot of what the pros are buying into is the vision right now of not just being another Upwork or Fiverr, but also being different from the solutions partner marketplace where it can be hard to be found. The whole point of it is like, you have all these experts that can definitely help with all the problems that we're seeing, but it's hard to find them. They have to do work on LinkedIn, which is like the worst to do it in this way. Like, you have to be active every single day. And it's a hat that I like wearing it, but I'm in the minority in terms of the kind of the expectation. Like, you have to let the serendipity happen. Like, you have to be willing for that part, because LinkedIn metrics suck. Like, they don't tell you anything, especially lives and videos. Like, we started doing the daily show with George and Casey, and we all so I stream from the Profoundly page. They stream from their profiles. And do we really have to do the work every day to add up all the impressions of the videos every day? Or do we just accept the fact that each of us are getting pinged either through our notifications or through our DMs? People are showing up out of nowhere that are second level connections at leadership spots in non-SaaS businesses, like the target market that everybody wishes they could access. And they try to figure out these targeted ways to get to them, right? It's just a different world we're in right now. But I listened to the one book from Gary Vee that I listened to was last year, Day Trading Attention. And I listened to it in May. So I've been doing Let's Build every day for about 2 months. And basically that book was all the permission I needed to just go harder and keep doing it. And his message of, you don't have to play the game. Just understand this is the game. Like showing up every day as a business leader, as a business. If you are not showing up every day, you will lose the game. And that's, I think, more important than ever. It's just very hard to do when you're used to like campaign calendars and content strategies. And I always know when I'm trying to get AI to give me a strategy that I appreciate, then I have to kick it out of like human-based training modes where it's, no, I want to do this B2B HubSpot, like news network kind of thing. And so give me content like schedule, like for that. And it's like, all right, like webinar on Monday, like Friday, do this. And it's once a month. I'm like, no, dude. Pretend we're an actual news network and now give me the schedule. And it's okay, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. There we go.
And I've seen that, and I will die if I don't come out with another article in every 10 minutes. Yeah, if you're with those news articles and news sites, you have to come out with articles every 5, 6, 7 minutes. Imagine if they didn't come out with the news article in an hour. They would lose drastically. Right. And I think that's the equivalent. That's the right way to think of it. It's like, it is news. The news thrives on a cycle, an immediate cycle. It used to be catch the 6 o'clock news, 9 o'clock news.
Yeah. But also, there is no Salesforce Ben for HubSpot. There's no HubSpot Chris, right?
That has been noted.
Yes.
Rob Jones and I are talking about that very thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the thing that I'm like really excited about for Profoundly is, as much as I understand it at this moment, it's not everyone can afford to work with a partner. And not everyone wants to work at a partner or even with a partner. Sometimes someone just wants, I can't tell you like how many times like I've been hit up on LinkedIn where someone's, hey, do you know someone who's like really good at this? And I have to be like, everyone I know who's really good at this is working at a partner, and they're going to want to get a retainer, and they're going to charge you a whole bunch of stuff for and an hourly blocks and like all this kind of stuff. And they can't just like grab time with them and pay them for advice on something, right? That hasn't existed. It's just, maybe I know 1 or 2 people that are like looking for a job or something that can do some like work on the side. But like that sort of, it's almost like, it's like hyper-focused HubSpot gig economy type avenue, right? Where you don't have to be a whole agency. They're fine. They're taken care of. They have the partner network. They've got HubSpot behind them. They've got all this and all that. But especially in an age where, hey, let's not lie about it. Like the economy's not looking great right now. There's going to be a lot of layoffs. That's just going to happen, right? And there's going to be a lot of people saying, hey, if I can't find work in an agency right now, like where can I go and use these amazing tools I have in my brain and continue doing the work that I love? And so this would be a great avenue for those folks. I think also people try to get a name for themselves in this space. I know you and me have had conversations about this before in the past, Chris. It's tough, right? If you don't work at an agency or you don't have your own agency, how hard is it for you to make any sort of traction in the partner program? So I think this is like great for everyone, because not only is it going to offer a more affordable alternative for HubSpot customers who need help with HubSpot, right? It's going to provide job opportunities for folks that are either just getting started or maybe in between roles at partner companies, or people who just don't want to work at a partner agency anymore. And 3, what was my third one? There's another one that I had. Oh, it's going to drive some competition in the partner world, I think, too, right? Because it's going to be another thing that partner agencies have to compete with. And so hopefully that makes their pricing more competitive, their offerings more competitive. They can differentiate and be able to position, hey, why do you need to hire like a whole team versus just an individual, and making that like much more worth it and things like that. And it'll probably be great for HubSpot sales reps too. They're like, hey, listen, if a partner is out of your budget, right?
Hi.
We got a guy, you got people, right?
Yeah,
and like, The reason I think this is so much better than something like a Fiverr or like a Upwork or like whatever, right? It's like you go on there. This is to my extent, like you want to filter by skills. It's like HubSpot is just a generic skill. When behind that is a billion different things, right? So I think something like HubSpot really warrants and justifies an entire sort of, I don't know if gig economy is the right word, but maybe it is, right? Like a more gig economy type platform that is built for the nuances of HubSpot, right? Because the skills can be different things in the HubSpot universe, features, hubs, soft skills and strategies that go behind all that kind of stuff versus just, oh, HubSpot? Come on now. Dude, it's so different.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
I can work.
Yeah.
Well, you got a big gap to fill, which is awesome. I know one time, so I wanted to give you your final thoughts, Chris.
Well, that last piece will be my last plug because I've been doing this value first thing, and that's going to be launching too. And again, it's only because of this expert led. Let's get experts together and just start doing valuable things. And this came up last year when I was doing the superhuman framework with George. We got to the end of it and it's, man, this is awesome. But I don't know any leaders who are just going to be able to show up and say, let's start doing things differently. They don't know how to get past things like sales compensation, like to be able to make change in the way that they need to. So what we end up doing is, all right, you come in with a HubSpot problem. Okay, nothing. HubSpot's not the problem. Sorry. Like, it's your processes. It's the people who are in charge or not in charge of HubSpot. It's how you think of HubSpot as a way to execute your business strategy, right? So immediately we start to go outside of HubSpot. And how can we help people with that? That's what this value first stuff is all about, so that we can, like, and it's not trying to bait and switch. It just so happens to be that when you get through that stuff, HubSpot is probably the best platform that you could build, grow, and scale a business on, like, period. So that's like the other level that we're trying to accomplish. It's been fun. It's been resonating with a lot of people. I'm trying to figure out how the hell I do all this stuff, but that's where Claude comes through in a lot of ways. So excited to be working with AI and helping people with that too. And just at the end of the day, working with a bunch of great people like you guys. Shout out to Max for being there at the beginning of Let's Build.
We had some fun.
Digging into some event happily. We had a lot of good fun about that. And that
we got more to unbox soon, buddy.
Those moments told me, like, okay, gave me the permission as well. It's like, it's okay to just go and have fun and have some good conversations. Just dig in. So I always appreciate you for doing that, Max.
Appreciate you for having us.
Man, well, check it out. We like to ask 3 questions before we sign it off. First question, Chris, what is your favorite animal?
Cat.
Move on. Perfect.
Next question.
No notes.
Second question. Your most hated breakfast cereal. One you can't.
Most hated breakfast cereals?
One. You're like, I tried it.
Fruity Pebbles.
Also a great answer.
Not good. Sugar Smacks are honestly terrible also.
No, we can fight about Sugar Smacks.
Fruity Pebbles has such promise. It just turns into mush immediately.
It's literally
can't do that.
Wet Kleenex.
Sure. Wait, also, can we just talk about how like Rice Krispies by themselves are like immaculate though?
Yeah.
Right?
Very good. Rice Krispies you grow into. Definitely.
Yeah.
As an adult. You're like, yo, this is just bad. Last question is favorite video game character.
You got 30 minutes?
I was not ready for that. Was Cloud too safe? I feel like it might be too
Cloud.
safe. Cloud Strife.
Cloud.
Yeah. Final Fantasy, my favorite series. So
Cloud Strife. I'll take Cloud. You didn't have, at least you didn't say you. silly.
Yeah.
like you.
Let's not overthink it.
I was going to say Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
Anyway, appreciate having Chris. You gotta walk. Man, I've played the game a couple times. It's fine.
What do you
got?
Well, I appreciate you guys having me.
Coming on, man.
It's
We
been an awesome
appreciate it.
conversation.
You know what you're
Yeah,
doing.
man.
We appreciate you.
Much love.
Awesome.
Later,
Thanks,
buddy.
fellas.